Have you ever required to transmit data between two different processes or even two different machines in a network, or maybe in a long distance, maybe with different operating system and developed in different programming languages? Yes, I know. That's a bit challenging. Serializing and deserializing data correctly might be a bit challenging. There are some solutions. You might think about JSON or XML, but if the amount of data are not that much big, yes, it works. But if you are talking about transmitting lots of data and with a high frequency, it might be a bit challenging and they are not efficient enough. So there's a solution, and that's Protobuf framework was introduced by Google. In this video, we are going to have a quick introduction about Protobuf and having a simple example in C++ to see how we can utilize Protobuf.
To have a practical approach, I would like to start with a diagram showing the process of generating source code out of a Proto file that we will see later in two examples, one for Android and another one in C++. As you can see here, we need to define a data schema. That's the first step that I will show you an example of that. This data schema will be used by Protoc, which is Protobuf compiler, which is shown here, to generate some source code. The target language could be C++, Java, Python, and there are some other languages that being supported directly and officially by Protoc. But there are some other like third-party facilities and libraries that you can generate it for more languages. There are different setup, just as a heads up, or maybe as an information, there are different setup to generate source code out of a proto file. For example, to generate a source code out of the protobuf file. For example, in Android Studio, there is a plugin that you can set it up, and within the building the project, the source code will be generated from the data schema of the protobuf. But in a C++, you can directly use Protoc in your make file or CMake, and there are some other facilities. For example, in Bazel, there's a facility that it's supporting Protoc somehow. But based on your project and its requirement, you can use the best setup for your project. Let's look at the next diagram here, which is showing how it will be used. For example, you can think that you have two different applications, that these applications might be running in two different PC or two different machines in the network or wherever that you can imagine. And the machines can use different operating system, and the applications could have been developed by different programming languages. The only thing which is important here is the protobuf classes that should be generated from one protobuf file. That's the only important thing. So what you are gonna get here is the compatibilities. The compatibility between two different applications running on two different machines inside two different operating systems and developed by two different programming languages. And serializing and deserializing data will happen so well and without any problem. Here, I have provided a simple diagram of a protofile schema that you can see here. For example, you can start with some syntax that in this example, you can see that it says that this protofile is using Proto version 3. We have Protobuf version 2 as well, but here the example mentioning that this data schema is using Proto version 3, which is important. Then Protoc knows what configuration or maybe how to generate the source code out of this protobuf. The next step is defining a package name, which it's defined here as well. You might need to import some other protobuf files that you have defined some messages or some data type or some other things. So that's kind of facility that you can import other protobuf to reuse the structures, I mean the messages or other things that you have defined previously. And then for Java package or maybe some other languages, you have an option to define the package names. Afterwards, you can see here that we have defined a message, which is so simple, and a string name, and in 32 parameters. So this message structure, which is person, has only two fields. The first one is name, string type, and the second one is ID, and the type is int32. There might be some enumeration or other things that you need to define or some services. Let's jump into the website. There are lots of information that you can use based on your project requirement or the question that you might have. You can browse this website and find the right information here. For example, it's showing what languages are being supported directly and officially. There are other programming languages, but for these two programming languages, which is Dart and Go, you need to use a specific plugin actually. But C++, C Sharp, Java, Kotlin, Object-C, PHP, Python, and Ruby being supported directly and officially with Proto C. There are other lots of information here that you can use and see how it works. That's a data schema, and here it's being shown that how you can create an object of that, and how you can write it to a file, and so on. I will show you in the examples how it can work in C++ and in Android with Kotlin. There are other information. There are lots of information and some samples here that you can browse on your own. Let's start with the first example here, which is C++. And I would like to show you how it works and how it looks like here. Okay. Let me a bit resize the window, the VS Code. You can see everything here. Okay, we have two folders, app folder and lib folder. In the lib folder, we have .proto file. Here I have mentioned that's a Proto 3. The package name here defines a Proto underline example. There is a message with some fields, and inside this message, I have defined an enumeration. And here you can see another data structure of message that's it's being used here. And this one is kind of list because I have mentioned here repeated. These fields are like using primitive data types, for example, int32, a string, and this one as well is an enumeration that, of course, is going to be kind of integer, int8, int16, or int32. But this one, since it's mentioned as a repeated, it will be kind of list. So we'll have a list of receivers. Here we have a Proto underline utility, which you can see here. It has two different functions. One of them is read from file, and another one is writing to a file, and both of them getting a message structure. The message structure looks familiar. If we jump here, that's the structure that we have defined, but you can see there is no header file for that yet. But we are expecting to include this header file. So what will happen is when we are making this file, this project, sorry, this header file will be generated out of this protobuf file. And here we have the application and the main function that, using this namespace, which we have defined in the message.protobuf, and also including Proto utility to run and do whatever. Here you can see, for example, here it's trying to create a message to message object. The first one here will be filled, and then we will try to write it to the file and then read it from the file. And we will print them out here on the console that you can see the output, and here you can see that we have shut it down. Here's a README file that you can go through it quickly. I have installed these packages, before recording the video, so it's ready. And also this package, these two steps, this one and this one are essential. And the next step is just making that. Let's see how it looks like. Here you can see, and that's the content of the folder, and that's the same folder. I will try to make it. You can see here in the first line, as a first step, we are trying to build and generate the source code out of this proto file, which I showed you here in this lib folder. These two options, letting know the proto C where to find it, which is that one, the first one, dash dash proto underscore path, which is the address of this protobuf. And the next one is hyphen hyphen cpp out, which again is the lib. So after generating, you can see here we have two more files. One of them is a header file with the same name. As you can see here, it's the header file of the message.pb.h, and the next one is a C++ code that it has lots of functions and definitions here. But anyway, if we can scroll a bit more, you can see, for example, the message priority. Yes, here. We have defined it here. Let me search it a bit just as a maybe have a better feeling about what we have done. You see, it started with message, then underscore priority. So it means that it belongs to the message structure, then it's the priority, and then the other are the enumerations, enumeratives that includes that priority enumeration. And there are other functions that you can see on your own. It was a bit interesting. I went, I think, one or two times through that to understand how it works. Anyway, let's jump back to the terminal. So the first step was generating proto file, and afterwards it tried to run all of them together to see how it works. But here, as I can see, we have the build folder that you can see this proto example generated here. And I'm gonna run it, and we can see together the result. Okay, perfect. So in the first step, we have tried to write it to the file, which was successful. And then in the next step, we try to read it. And what we read, we read from the file is this one, test message ID2, and there are two receiver names. Let's jump back to the C++ file to see what we have filled. So the first one was a test message. Yes, the title is a test message. The ID is 2. Now we can compare it. Yeah, exactly. And there are two receiver names. As you can see, I have added two receiver names here. Set receiver name, which is the first one, and the second one, which is a receiver name, person no hyphen 2. So it was successful. And if you want to see how this test with test.bin looks like, it's like it. You can see there are some maybe ASCII codes or characters that you cannot see, but there are some directives that letting Protobuf library how to deserialize the information. Yes, and as you can see here, we have tried to write it to the file with this directive. Anyway, there would be other ways to do it. And I would like to jump to the Android source code to show you some part of the application. Yes, that's another application that I have provided here that you can see how it works in reality. Let me adjust it again so you can see everything here. So I'm running an emulator here. I'm trying to stop maybe that one, and I will show you how it looks like. There's a custom message that you can see. It has lots of fields. It's almost the same thing, but I just put it as a custom message. And there's a first fragment. That first fragment has two buttons, which I will show you here as well. Which these two buttons will do. I will try to store and restore data from a file. That's the first fragment, which is trying to rendering here till it's being rendered. What I can see here, for example, it's the first one is we'll try to zoom in to see how to. Yes, the first one is storing the custom message, and second one loading that. First, let's run it and see how it works. Then I will show you how it looks like inside the build.gradle and the source code. Okay, now the application is running, and I'm clearing the logcat. Now the first step is storing custom message. I will take it and put it into a file. Let's create a new file here. Maybe just .txt, and I'm going to paste it here. And I will show you what I am looking for. So here we have printed out the byte array of what we have done, and here we try to print out it as a string. Then I will try to load it, and you can see it's fetching it, which is this one, and then printing out the string. Let's jump into the code to see how it works. I have defined two different functions, save custom message and load custom message. In the first one, there's a parameter as a custom message, which that's a class generated from this protobuf. And I am trying to get a byte array of that, and then I will print it out. And afterwards, what I am doing is making it as a string and writing it to a file. In the next step, I will try to read it as a byte array. Here you can see, and then parse it, and then I will return it, which you can see it's being used here, and then I'm printing it. So what I'm doing here I'm saving that. That's the data structure I am sending and passing to the save custom, which the name is, the title is hello, ID is 1, and some configuration here. So if we look at here and compare, you will see the same thing. Hello with the data type, with the same ID, with the sender name, and just one receiver name that you can find it here. So that's what is actually the first button doing here, which if I click here, it will jump here. But in the next button, I'm loading the information from the file. So I am trying to run the load custom, which will try to find this temporary file within the application environment or wherever it's storing the data. And if it doesn't exist, okay, it will return and return with a like a default instance of that. Otherwise, it will try to read the file as a byte array, and it will try to parse it and then return it, which, as you can see here, we have tried to use it to generate a byte array and print it out as a string as well. So, since the custom message is the same, what I would like to show you here is inside the build folder. If I'm okay, easiest way is searching that. You can see that here there are lots of maybe just one Java, one or two Java classes or files that created. I will jump into the first one and we can go through that. This one generated by the plugin, Android plugin automatically. So that's the same thing. And you can see here we have a package. What is the package name? Come example proto, which I have defined here, and I showed you in the data schema structure that one of the facilities is to setting or maybe telling what Java package should be used to generate this class. And that's important sometimes for encapsulation or modularity and other things. And there are the rest of the methods that you can see here. So how the build Gradle looks like. Let's jump here. We have the build Gradle, to build Gradle. One of them is here, which I needed to add this plugin here. And the next one is at the application layer, sorry, application modules, which I've added this definition and this part as well, and adding this Proto Java. I will put the GitHub repos in a description for both the applications, so you can go through the code on your side and see how it works. The next time that you need to serialize and deserialize data between two processes, or serializing to transmit or storing data, you can think about the Protobuf library and framework, which is being used in Android and in lots of, other web services. I know that it's being used widely. I have seen that in different industries being used, like telecommunication or automotive, and within Android you can find it as well. So that was a quick and a practical video about Protobuf that you have seen how it works in Android and C++. I hope you have found it useful. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.